Do you think moon bases are just science fiction? Well, for now, you're still right. The water supply, for example, is a big challenge to human life surviving on the moon, but we have some good news for you this week. A recent discovery is bringing us one step closer to actually building a lunar base. They found a new method to extract water from lunar soil. From the world's first lung cancer vaccine to an Australian law that stops bosses from calling you after work, here are 7 of the most positive news stories of the week. Hey, I'm your host Regis, and let's start off in Australia, where the government has greenlit plans to build the largest solar farm on the planet. Over the last 2 decades, Australia's been considered one of the worst emitters of greenhouse gases in the world per capita. This is due to the fact that their economy is heavily reliant on fossil fuels, such as coal and gas, which are also sold abroad. As a result, it's hoped that the construction of an enormous solar farm in a remote part of Australia's sunny Northern Territories will go some way towards reducing the nation's huge carbon footprint. Estimated to cost an eye-watering $19 billion, the farm will cover a vast area of 12,400 hectares, which is about a fifth the size of Chicago. It's expected to have a capacity of 4 gigawatts. That's the same as around 3 nuclear power plants. The energy will be transported to the nearby city of Darwin. Then, it'll be transferred to a converter station that'll change it into DC, or direct current, which is better for sending electricity over long distances. After that, it'll be transported through an underwater cable that'll snake through Indonesian waters and onto the buyers in Singapore. In August 2024, the project came one step closer to reality when the government announced that they had granted Aussie company Sun Cable, who will oversee the project, environmental approvals. It's now expected that the farm will be up and running by the early 2030s, a time when lab-grown starfish released into the wild may have saved their species from extinction. For millions of years, the sunflower starfish has played a vital role in reducing overpopulation in freshwater habitats such as coral reefs, tidal pools, and kelp forests. By feasting on sea urchins, mussels, and other underwater organisms that prey on others, it ensures that none of them can dominate, which maintains biodiversity. But over the last decade, the population of this super important animal has sharply declined by over 90%. This is because a global rise in temperature has decreased oxygen levels in seawater, which has accelerated a type of deadly bacterial infection called sea star wasting disease. By 2020, the situation had become so bad that the sunflower starfish became the first ever marine invertebrate to be added to the International Union for Conservation of Nature's Red List as a critically endangered species. Thankfully though, it was right around this time that University of Washington marine biologist Jason Hoden vowed to do everything he could to save these animals. His rescue mission began with the collection of a small sample of starfish from a nearby harbor. Then he successfully bred them in a controlled lab environment for over 5 years. In August of 2024, 10 baby stars were deposited back to their ancestral home in the harbor, marking the first time that lab-grown sunflower starfish have been reintroduced into the wild. By monitoring them closely, the team hopes to discover the most effective ways to repopulate the species in the future. From delaying extinction to delaying disease, a drug that could significantly improve the quality of life for brain cancer sufferers has just been approved in the United States. The origins of this medicine go back to 2008, when scientists linked the mutation of a gene called IDH with a type of brain cancer called low-grade glioma. This is a tumor that grows so slowly that patients can often live with it for years or even decades. Usually, those who are diagnosed with it have as much of it possible surgically removed first, before going through chemotherapy to kill off any remaining cancer cells. But although effective, chemotherapy has a range of negative side effects. A new drug recently approved by the United States Food and Drug Administration means that this necessary but uncomfortable treatment phase can now be significantly delayed. A drug called vorasidenib was invented by scientists at the Johns Hopkins University and works by specifically targeting the IDH gene so that it mutates at a much slower rate, which in turn slows down the growth of the tumor. In fact, clinical trials have shown that those who took it more than doubled the length of time until they needed to undergo chemotherapy compared to those who didn't take it. With health authorities in Canada and Europe currently reviewing it, it might not take long until vorasidenib becomes a standard treatment for low-grade glioma. Now, let's take a look at another advancement that'll do the world a load of good. We're talking about the world's first zinc-ion battery factory that's just opened for business. As you might know, batteries are usually made with lithium, and using this material has several disadvantages. First, extracting lithium can take anywhere between a couple of months to a couple of years depending on the process used, making it an extremely expensive and resource-intensive activity. Secondly, because it uses a flammable electrolyte to convert stored energy into usable energy, it's possible for lithium batteries to randomly catch fire. Thankfully, this is pretty rare. A good alternative is zinc-ion batteries. Unlike lithium, it only takes between 24 to 48 hours to produce zinc, making it a lot cheaper and more eco-friendly. In addition, because zinc-ion batteries use a water-based electrolyte, they are non-flammable, meaning they're a lot safer. Lastly, they also last a whole lot longer. While zinc-based batteries are usable for 20 years, lithium batteries only have a 12-year lifespan. The only thing that lithium has over zinc is its greater energy density, which makes it better suited to handling high-intensity usage. This leads us to the exciting news that the world's first zinc-ion battery factory has just been opened up in northern Sweden by energy firm Enerpoly. By 2026, it's predicted that the Enerpoly Production Innovation Center will produce 100 megawatts of zinc-ion batteries every year. At the moment, they're available in either cell module form or as a more powerful battery pack, making them ideal for large-scale grid storage. Once the initial production targets are achieved, Enerpoly plans to scale up the operation to make a next-generation zinc-ion gigafactory, but we'll have to wait a little longer for that one. Next up, we going back to the land down under, where Australians have been given the right to disconnect from work. Ever since the rise of the smartphone, it's been a lot harder for people to distinguish the boundaries between their work and non-work lives. In other words, because of our greater availability, some bosses think it's perfectly acceptable to call and text out of hours. Oh, 1 second, guys, I gotta take this. Freddy, I'm recording, man. Can this wait? Cool, okay, thanks. On the other hand, longer work hours and never knowing when to switch off from work have been shown to be detrimental to the mental and physical health of employees. It's also incredibly unfair and actually bad for business, with studies illustrating that overworking leads to significant unpaid overtime as well as low levels of productivity and motivation. This issue is particularly bad for Australians, who work 281 hours of unpaid overtime on average each year. So for these reasons, Australia has become the latest country to pass a right to disconnect law. The new law means that workers now have the right to ignore work communications outside of scheduled hours. If necessary, an employer can legally be ordered to stop sending messages, and if they refuse to do so, they can be handed a fine of up to $60,000. With the passing of this historic measure, it's only a matter of time before other countries begin to follow suit. Our penultimate good news story of the day is about another development that's quite literally groundbreaking. Scientists have discovered a way to turn lunar soil into water. Ever since Neil Armstrong took one small step for man, mankind has dreamt of colonizing the moon. But as you can probably guess, there are a lot of technical hurdles that have to be overcome before we can even begin to consider such a massive project. One of the biggest is that a fully functioning lunar base requires a reliable source of water for the people actually living there. A recent discovery by Chinese researchers, though, may have made this a problem of the past. A 3-year analysis of soil samples has revealed that it's actually possible to transform 1 ton of lunar soil into 50 kilograms of water, or potentially even more. This is all the more amazing considering that the water content in lunar soil is incredibly low. So this begs the question, how did they extract such a massive amount of water from something that has next to no water in it? The key to understanding this is hydrogen. For billions of years, large amounts of hydrogen have been deposited in lunar soil by solar winds emitted by the sun. When this hydrogen-dense soil is heated to a temperature of 1,000 degrees Celsius, it undergoes a chemical reaction that produces elemental iron and water. This appears in the form of steam, which can then be condensed into liquid. As part of the study, the Chinese team laid out a surprisingly low-tech and practical way that this process can be implemented on the moon. It involves concentrating sunlight onto the soil using a mirror or lens to produce the heat required for the reaction to take place. Another benefit is that the produced water can also generate oxygen and hydrogen itself when subjected to a process called electrolysis. This is incredibly useful for building self-sustaining lunar bases, as the oxygen can be repurposed for respiration while the hydrogen can be transformed into a source of power. Additionally, the elemental iron byproduct can be crafted into the raw materials necessary to make powered electronic devices, while the melted lunar soil can even be fashioned into basic bricks. Before we continue today, we'd really appreciate it if you check out our beautifully crafted newsletter with 10 additional stories per week. The link is in the comments below, and thank you so much for your support. Now, let's get to our final story. The world's first lung cancer vaccine trials have begun. With an estimated 1.8 million fatalities every year, lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer death globally. The most common form of it is called non-small cell lung cancer, or NSCLC, which accounts for 85% of all cases. So obviously, the best way to decrease the mortality rate of lung cancer would be to target this specific strand, which is exactly what the world's first lung cancer vaccine is designed to do. Manufactured by German company BioNTech, the BNT116 vaccine stimulates a response from the immune system by presenting it with various markers of the disease. Similar to the COVID-19 vaccine, this is achieved with a type of messenger molecule called an mRNA, which teaches the body how to combat NSCLC. The vaccine requires multiple injections over a long period of time to work. To start off, patients receive 6 consecutive injections, each with different mRNA strands every 5 minutes over the course of 30 minutes. After this, they repeat this every week for 6 weeks and then every 3 weeks for 54 weeks. Phase 1 clinical trials for this life-saving vaccine have just started in 7 countries, where 130 patients with various stages of the disease will be monitored after receiving the vaccine. Providing everything goes smoothly, Phase 2 and Phase 3 will follow, and then if that goes well, it's going to be rolled out worldwide. And that's it for today's episode. Which of our good news stories from today do you think will have the most positive impact on the world tomorrow? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. As always, you can find our sources for this video in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next weekend.